this podcast, the Heidelcast.
It's a Heidel minicast. And now, Scott Clark.
I want to talk about reading and about the correct way to use hopefully.
If the Heidelcast helps you, won't you help us keep it going? Please make the coffer clink by clicking on the PayPal link or by sending a check to Heidelberg Reformation Association, 1637 East Valley Parkway, number 391, Escondido, California, 92027.
It's quite possible that you've just discovered the Heidelcast. It is a fast-growing podcast, and if that's so, it's easy to keep up with the Heidelcast. You can subscribe anywhere you hear it. You can subscribe to it in Spotify or on Spotify. You can subscribe to it in YouTube or on YouTube, and you could subscribe to it in any podcast app. We highly recommend that you do that.
The Heidelcast.
Hopefully and hopeful. This will not be an easy one to change or fix, but it is easy enough to understand. Hopefully is an adverb, and an adverb is a modifier or a word that modifies a verb, which is an action word. That's a very broad definition of a verb. So a correct usage would be, hopefully he rose to address the assembly. So there'd be a comma after hopefully. Right? In this case, hopefully describes the spirit in which the person rose to speak. The most frequent way we hear this used is, however, incorrect. I'll give you an example. Hopefully, it will not rain tomorrow. That's not correct. Because what that sentence actually said, nobody means this, but it's what the person actually said is that the weather is hopeful, right? But weather isn't hopeful. Weather doesn't have feelings of anticipation or expectation. The weather just is whatever it is in the providence of God. What people usually mean when they say hopefully that X will happen this is what they mean. I hope it will not snow tomorrow. I don't know why we've become reluctant to say, I hope it doesn't snow, but we have. It's just odd. It's like we've forgotten the word hope. Well, we have a word for that. I hope it doesn't snow. I'm not sure if we're somehow dodging responsibility for saying what we really think or what else is going on. I really don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. But perhaps it's part of a general pattern of relativizing truth claims. We see this in construction, and I've talked about this before, such as, I feel that, or in my opinion, or I think that. On the surface, these seem like innocuous enough expressions, but the effect of those kinds of qualifiers is to communicate the notion that, well, this is what I think, but I'm not saying that it's true for everyone else. Consider the difference, for example, between it's cold outside and it seems to me to be cold outside. In the first instance, there's an unequivocal claim about what is the case. In the second, there's a claim about what is subjectively experienced. And as I mentioned before, when you couch things in subjective terms, well, nobody can object because that's your experience and nobody can say you didn't experience that. If you say X is the case categorically, well, that can be contested and maybe that's frightening. I don't know. In any event, if you want to describe the hopeful attitude with which something is being done, then use the adverb hopefully. If, however, you mean to say what you hope might be the case, then say it directly. This distinction works for other adverbs, such as thankfully. For example, I am thankful that means one thing. Thankfully, comma, he received the donation to the Heidelberg Reformation Association, for example, means something else.
Call or text now, 760-618-1563.
I want to talk for just a couple of minutes about reading. I am very concerned about what I am reading and what I'm hearing about the disappearance of reading. Just yesterday, I heard about a study, the results of a study that suggested that the percentage of people who are actually reading is plummeting. This is a very bad thing. This will not go well for society, and frankly, it will not go well for you, for your family, your children, if we become functionally illiterate. Because we can't count on the public school system, to be sure, to teach our children much of anything of value. They seem bent on teaching our children all kinds of things that are not particularly useful or particularly true, like there are multiple genders. I was just seeing a news story tonight, how that one school district is teaching kindergartners that there are three genders. And some children are boys, some children are girls, some children are both, some children are neither. That's what they're teaching kindergartners in more than one district. The federal government has sent out notices, apparently, to a large number of states. I saw the map, and it looked like most states are doing things that are contrary to a recent executive order. And that means the White House, anyway, thinks that the school districts are teaching stuff about sexuality that's not appropriate to the age group or medically true. This is about federal funding to public schools for sex ed. Anyway, so schools are spending a lot of time doing things, but they're not, for example, teaching phonics, which is making it difficult for kids to learn how to read. You might think seriously about finding a tutor if you're not a reading teacher to teach your child to read if you have your child in a public school and they're being taught some other way to read than phonics, or at least if they're not being taught to read. I don't know. Maybe you think phonics doesn't work. I don't know what you think, but what my concern is that your kid learns to read. And I'm really, really concerned about the fact that people are not reading, not even reading for pleasure, which you'd think that would be sort of lighter reading, entertaining reading, and they're just not entertaining themselves by reading anymore. They're entertaining themselves on social media, I suspect, and other things as well. I mean, I want you to listen to the podcast. I don't want you to stop listening to the Heidelcast, but I do want you to read. It's vital for your brain. I think it's vital for your spiritual well-being to be reading the Bible, to be reading the Heidelberg Catechism, the Westminster Confession, to be reading good literature. I will say it's my experience and my impression, very strong impression, that Reformed Christians or people in the PNR world generally are better readers than most. We buy books, it seems to me, more avidly than other traditions. That's just how it seems. I think I'm pretty close to right about that. This is not a scientific study, but I would think that that's probably right. But still, we're not immune from the trends in the culture. How often are you reading scripture, for example? And I don't really care whether you're reading it on paper or on a device, a phone, a tablet, or a screen of some kind. That's fine. I mean, it's not maybe quite the same reading experience, but it's reading. I'm not criticizing you for that. How much time are you spending every week reading some kind of devotional literature or serious literature, theologically informative literature or something of substance, something that's edifying? Obviously, you probably have to read things for work. To be honest, that's a challenge for me. I have a lot of things I have to read for work that are sometimes edifying, but sometimes technical and sometimes difficult and not always entertaining. And I do struggle personally myself doing, reading for entertainment. I used to every summer read several books for entertainment. And this summer, for example, I got none of that done. Now, I think there are a variety of reasons for that. But when I heard that study, it really hit home that, well, that's kind of true of me. I haven't been doing a lot of reading for entertainment. I usually read one book by C.S. Lewis every summer. I haven't done that for 2 or 3 summers, or at least something about Lewis. I try to do a little bit every summer. I got stuck on a giant Lewis biography. I collected his letters, and I was reading some of those a while back. Anyway, this summer I failed to do that, and I've got stacks and stacks of books, and some of them are sort of popular and entertaining. I even got a book about Nebraska football, and I usually read at least one of those every year, and I haven't gotten any of that done so far this summer. So I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just noticing what happened to me this summer, and I think there are particular reasons for that, namely the crazy construction project that we've been experiencing, but there have been other things probably that have gotten in the way. But I suspect I'm not alone. And as I say, when I heard that study, the report of that study, that people are not reading, that just hit a nerve, partly because I write stuff and that I want people to read. I'm in the process of publishing a book. As you hear this, it will be out, Lord willing, they say, on November 12, a commentary on the Heidelberg Catechism. Probably that won't count for entertaining reading. It's not really supposed to be. I hope it's edifying, but it probably won't be entertaining. And I've got a couple of other publishing projects in the works that I hope people will read. So it's just something of which to be aware that we are becoming, as a society, busier and busier, more and more distracted, more and more addicted to social media, to the sort of dopamine hits or whatever it is that happens in our brains when we get that interaction on social media. So let's not let that go. That skill of reading and the education that comes from it, the development that comes from it, the spiritual growth that comes from it, all of that seems to be a really high price to be entertained by screens.
Thanks for listening. Tune in tomorrow for more from the Heidelcast, brought to you by Heidelberg Reformation Association.org. Don't forget, when the coin in the coffer clinks, the cost of bandwidth shrinks. Copyright Heidelberg Reformation Association. All rights reserved. This is a Heidel Media production.
To this podcast, the Heidelcast.